Hey guys, welcome to the Rubin Report, and unless there's been a coup, I'm Dave Rubin. I've got Leeann Tweeden and Gina Grad with me. Let's get to it. All right, George Bush, George W. Bush, he's back, people. He was interviewed by ABC's Jonathan Karl, and he's chiming in, or not so chiming in, kinda on some stuff. Let's take a look at the first clip.
Now, I saw a journalist in Zambia asked you about gay marriage and whether it is compatible with Christian values, and you had an interesting response.
I shouldn't be taking a speck out of somebody else's eye when I have a log in my own.
I meant that I wasn't going to answer the question then, and I'm not going to answer it now in terms of the political question about whether or not, I just don't want to wade back in the debate. I'm out of politics. But I meant it's very important for people not to be overly critical of someone else until you've examined your own heart.
All right, I like that quote. I want to get it right. I shouldn't be taking a speck out of someone else's eye when I have a log in my own. Is that a subtle gay joke? I'm not so sure.
No, right in the eye.
Ladies, what do you think about this? Because it seems to me that, he gets out and now he's starting to chime back in on things, but still just won't jump on the gay I mean, just go for it already.
To me, I think, I totally respect his view of not responding. He isn't the president anymore, and I'm sure they asked him for the interview, and they want to ask him about that because it's his party, and what does he think? I'm okay with that, and I think at the end, that last quote, he was probably referring to Dick Cheney, who has a gay daughter. And so I'm saying, I think he's going, look, most Americans are very personal in their politics, and you go and you vote your politics when you go to the voting booth, and a lot of times you don't know what your neighbor thinks or what they're gonna vote on. So I think he's like, you know what, to each his own, and I'm out of politics. I don't need to answer that question, and I respect that.
A defense of George Bush in the Young Turks studio. How about that? Do you think the president? What, two? Do you? I mean, do you think the former presidents that they should just stay out of everything?
No, I don't think they should stay out. If they have an opinion, go for it. But I think we're all so used to, it's been long enough that W hasn't been in the office that we're used to him saying something stupid. There are coffee table books about it. There's all kinds of, funny little things and memes and all this stuff, that everything that comes out of his mouth is complete chaos and crazy bullshit. And it is so refreshing for him to be like, look, I'm out of politics, and to each his own, and all these wonderful things that we could have used, before.
Hey, he's been very quiet.
Right?
He's been very quiet in his retirement, which has been great. He's like, you know what, I'm out. I don't need to talk about things.
He's trying to chill, and he doesn't want to get thrown back into this
But
stuff.
is there a little piece of it that's a little disingenuous because, it was him when he was being reelected that made gay marriage like a real wedge issue?
Yeah, but why does he need to talk about it now? I mean, why are you, if he wants to keep it personal, why are you mad that he doesn't want to say it out loud?
I don't know that I'm mad. It just seems to me like get on the right side of history.
Whether you don't, why does anybody go vote?
And on top of that, if he supported gay marriage, I'd be even more pissed, because I'd be like, where was this guy when you actually made a difference?
Right.
Now all of a sudden it's okay for, screw you.
Well, that's an interesting point, because somebody like Dick Cheney, the second he was out, suddenly, now he backs gay marriage. Everybody, the second they're not in it anymore.
And speaking of writing books, I mean, how about our vice president now? He's probably written a few chapters of his own.
Biden's got stuff waiting.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It's the same thing. You get this like crazy old Uncle George vibe, and it's like, he's elderly now, kinda, and he just go sit in the corner.
See, I like him.
Drink your chamomile.
He does come off
honest.
He comes off as more likable now, for sure. Yeah. But let's watch this other clip. So he was also discussing the NSA tactics and what happens once you become president, and he was sort of backing President Obama on this. Take a listen.
Are you surprised that President Obama has kept in place so many of your counterterrorism programs, including those he criticized as a candidate?
I think the president got into the Oval Office and realized the dangers to the United States, and he's acted in a way that he thinks is necessary to protect the country. Protecting the country is the most important job of the presidency.
Okay, so I can kind of back what the ladies are saying about the gay marriage thing, and he's trying not to jump in on it. This thing, though, seems really awful to me, because everyone runs on an idea, and then the second they become president, they change everything. Oh, now I have some new information, and now I have to say some other things. Why do we believe anyone that's running for anything ever, right?
But if you look at Obama's track record on everything that he promised when he became president, I think he's done like maybe a half of one thing. So he's been very terrible on that record. If you look at the facts, whether I'm an Obama supporter or not, I'm not going to say that. But I'm just saying, if you look at the facts, what he said. So
right. So even the NSA stuff, for example, he said, "Oh, we're going to do this responsibly."
Drones, spying. I mean, there's a lot of things that he's continued on. The wars. I think he realizes things aren't shutting down Guantanamo. Things aren't as easy as what they say, and the platform that everybody wants to hear. Let's admit it. Politicians say what you want to hear. So people go, oh yay, hoorah, I'm going to vote for that, and then nothing happens. But I think when it comes to NSA, look, we all know we've been surveilling each other. It's been happening. I mean, the Cold War, people just said yesterday, oh, you know what? There's still some towers up that the Russians have, and they've been spying on us. You know what? Everybody's spying on each other. Everybody has technology. Everybody knows. Sure, has it gone too far? Maybe. In saying it's the defense of the country, sure, it probably has stopped a lot of things. Yeah. So there is a fine line. I don't know. I'm not president. I know it's a really damn difficult job.
But is that a valid excuse? Because they all run saying one thing, and then the excuse just comes. I mean, even Bill Maher was giving Obama a pass on this, saying, "Well, you find out stuff." The same thing that Bush just said.
Well, and that's the thing. I was hoping for more of a hot chick counterpoint, but I agree with Leann. I really do. I mean,
we'll
seriously,
get you to fight
exploded
at some point.
Because that's exactly. I think when you're running and you haven't been the president before, you are the people's voice. And then once you cross that line, you're the president. Now it's kind of you against them because you know things they will never know.
Exactly.
Don't you want that list? Isn't that why their hair turns gray after 2 weeks? Because they're told
he's aged
right.
The lizard people are among us, and they're like, oh fuck. So they know everything that we don't know. So all of a sudden, they're not speaking for us anymore.
Right. So we're all admitting freely that when they're speaking for us before they become president, that it's all a lie, right? I mean, is that pretty much what we're saying? That it's sort of willful ignorance just to get in?
It's more that than a lie.
Well, I think there's a lot of things in politics, money, lobbyists, there's a lot of things that come about when you actually get into the office and then you go, well, I would like to pass this, but then I'm not going to get this, and this done or push through if I don't get them to work with me. So it's a lot more difficult. Look, all politicians across the board are liars. Yeah. let's face it. And they know they say things that they will never be able to fulfill. And I mean, it's democracy.
Yeah. So final point on this. Should Obama actually be a little annoyed at George W. Bush? Because when he says nice things about him, that can't be good for Obama's ratings. You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
That's a really good point.
Or should he be like, I'll take it.
You know what? I have a quick anecdotal support of what you just said. I used to live in a super bad neighborhood for a long time. And a couple nights a week, a cop would roll up next to me and be like, hey, do you want me to escort you home? And I'd be like, get the fuck out of here. You're ruining my rep. You're going to make me look. So I feel like that's kind of how Obama feels. Don't help me. Get off me. You're not helping.
I don't need your help.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's actually making it worse.
Right, like they show the two of them in Africa like they're buddies, and Obama's like, not this guy.
No photo ops.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Obama's official network, MSNBC. They just love him over there. And actually, a former employee of MSNBC, a producer on Donahue. Do you remember Phil Donahue had a show on MSNBC? His show actually got canceled literally on the eve of the Iraq War because he was against the Iraq War. So that shows you how times change. But his producer, Jeff Cohen, wrote a blistering open letter about what MSNBC has become, and I thought it was pretty interesting. Let's take a read. When it comes to issues of U.S. militarism and spying, the alleged progressive MSNBC seems closer to the official network of the Obama White House than anything resembling an independent channel. With a few exceptions, especially Chris Hayes, MSNBC has usually reacted to expanded militarism and surveillance by downplaying the abuses or defending them. Had McCain or Romney defeated Obama and implemented the exact same policies, treating whistleblowers like Manning and Snowden as foreign espionage agents, one would expect MSNBC hosts to be loudly denouncing the Republican abuses of authority. But with Obama in power, a number of MSNBC talking heads have reacted to the Snowden disclosures like Fox News hosts did when they were in hysterical damage control mode for Bush, complete with ridiculously fact-free claims and national chauvinism that we've long come to expect from the Fair and Balanced channel. I mean, that is a pretty scathing attack from a former employee, not just an employee, a producer of a primetime show on the network. And I pretty much agree with everything that he said there. MSNBC has become as bad to the left as Fox News is to the right. And we've talked about this a bunch on this show. Are they just the official network of the administration?
Well, pretty much. I don't think it's like nobody doesn't know that unless you're living under a rock, and Fox is the same way to the right. I think any news channel in America is biased. They're all skewed one way or another. I think there's a lot more left-leaning news organizations. So that's why I always like to watch BBC. I like to watch foreign. Even Al Jazeera has some stories that you can read that aren't so biased to party sides, you know, and going down lines and just giving blind passes to whatever, whoever they agree with. Oh yeah, sure, of course. But then if Bush did it, it would be like the end of the world, you know. So I don't put much. He's surprised. I mean, he went to work at this. He produced at this network. Did he not know what MSNBC was before he went there?
Well, they weren't that bad when he was doing this.
That's true.
12 years ago.
You're
or whatever
exactly right.
Do you think this is worse because when it's on the side of power, then it's actually worse? You know what I mean? Like Fox News is going against the power now. Not that I'm defending Fox News, but
I agree.
Absolutely,
with that.
and everybody wants to take down, whoever has the most power. But that's the thing. I'm wondering the same thing. Who didn't know this? Why is this an issue? This is brought to you from the Institute of No Shit. Yeah. We all know this. This is not breaking news. I mean, yes, MSNBC is more liberal. Yes, Fox is more conservative. What am I missing? That's what I read this article 5 times and I was like, I must be missing. When I was a kid, I went to see the Crying Game, and everyone's like, there's a secret. And I'm like, okay, the credits are rolling. I must have missed something. Does this have something to do with the chick with the penis? Because I knew that from the beginning. What am I missing in this article?
Exactly. You think it's even more obvious. Like, wait a minute.
Well, okay, so do you think that articles like this, because this stuff is now being written all the time, like it used to be everything was against Fox one way, but this kind of stuff is popping up now. Is this just because we get such tailored news, because we're all getting news from Twitter, so you pick the people you like, you follow news that just reinforces everything
it's like
that you believe.
watching TV shows that you like. I mean, you're not going to watch Game of Thrones if you don't like that kind of storyline. I mean, you know what I mean? You're going to watch Breaking Bad or whatever. So people choose what it's kind of the same beliefs. It's the same, it's like going to church. You go to the church of the belief that you follow because you're like, that's what I believe in, so that's what I'm going to go with. Right. But I mean, like I said, it's so biased and skewed, and I think it didn't help that this administration's spokesman has been very aloof in a lot of things, doesn't like to answer a lot of things, and MSNBC has been very supportive of that and not really questioning them and not really making it, when he's turning down people that have been in the press corps for 20 years and not answering questions and being transparent like the government said they would be, it gets very frustrating. So when other liberal networks are actually calling them the official network of the Obama White House, then you have to go, something might be wrong here.
Is that the bigger problem that I think people that are on the left or that are progressive, we expect the left to be a little better.
Yeah, we expect them to be able to police themselves.
And they just simply can't.
Well, it's out of control. It's like a locomotive that's kind of gotten, they forgot, like, where are the brakes?
And
they're gone.
Everybody wants to think that the side that they align with is the one that is the most balanced, that is not just telling people what they want to hear. And I think that we all have to kind of wake up to that, because my presets on my radio in my car are super, super conservative radio and public radio. And I just back and forth, depending on when certain people are on.
Interesting. So I do something similar too on Twitter. I actually follow a lot of people that I don't like, just so I can chime in and get some sense.
You're supposed to know what the other side's doing or whatever, just to get a thank you. I mean, I like that. I lean more conservative. I'm more liberal or libertarian than anything. So I'm just like kind of government, stay out of my way. I'm not crazy religious or anything. I'm just fiscally conservative and money and policy and things like that. But it's like I'm liberal in all my other things. Gay marriage, great. Abortion, it's not my cup of tea, but I'm not going to stop anybody from doing their own thing. You know what I mean? So I kind of fit into the middle of these two worlds, which is bizarre. So I kind of have to look at both sides, and I think that makes people well-rounded.
Yeah, well, actually, this is a total sidebar to this, but today is Elisabeth Hasselbeck's last day on The View, and she's now moving. She's moving to Fox and Friends. No surprise to anyone.
Perfect.
But I think you're hitting on something that's really interesting, is that she was really I guess, too conservative somehow for ABC, which is bizarre because I think she actually
too conservative for 10 years. I think that was a pretty good run.
And she also did an incredible job. I mean, she was dealing with Joy Behar and Rosie O'Donnell
Well, she was
and
teamed
Whoopi.
up like 4-1 for a long time.
And they're some of the best seasoned comics that we have on the left and females, blah, blah, blah. But is there something dangerous about someone like her, I think a pretty, how can I say this without everyone attacking me? A pretty sane conservative voice, socially liberal but fiscally conservative. If someone like that can't exist on the networks, that's an even bigger problem, don't you think?
Yeah, and when you said I was hoping you were going to say radical, but you were going to say rational. That's cool. We're all different. But I agree. It's like 10 years. Who gets to do that? I mean, I think that was a success as far as ABC is concerned. So I'm not. I mean, unless they're spinning it that way because it's sour grapes because she's leaving.
ABC wouldn't have kept her on for 10 years if she did not pull ratings.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. So
they're going to miss something without her. I mean, they need
with
that
the
voice.
panel that they have, and then having her, it was almost like, oh, we'll throw the little right-wing conservative girl in the corner and see how she fares against all these Rottweilers and pit bulls. And she did for 10 years, you know, and I think that the networks, they're all about money and they're all about ratings and they're all about advertising. And if she wasn't pulling in any of those as part of that group, she would have been gone a long time ago.
And I'm from Kansas, I'm from the Midwest, and you know, they're always looking for someone to represent the great unwashed, as they used to be called, the flyover states.
Middle America.
Right, because apparently we're all the same. Jew from Kansas, by the way.
Really?
But so we're not all the same.
Yeah.
But I think that she was the representative of all of the flyover states, and everyone else just got to just do their thing.
Yeah. All right. A Jew from Kansas. I did not know there. I did not know there were any. All right. Well, going from what they call fair and balanced to completely unbalanced. Well, you know what? Watch yourself. Here's Pat Robertson.
When we like things on Facebook, if it's something that goes against what is written in the Bible, such as pictures of same-sex couples, is that considered condoning the behavior? How do you explain this to new Christians or youth?
Well, I'm not one who switches on likes in Facebook, so it's hard to say, but what you're saying is, yes, I like this kind of thing. You've got a couple of same-sex guys kissing. Do you like that? Well, that makes me want to throw up. But if you think you punch, to me, I would punch vomit, not like.
Not sure that option's there, but nonetheless.
They don't give you that option on Facebook. But anyhow, are you condoning it? Yes, you're condoning it.
Okay. Do you guys have that searing pain going through your brain?
Right behind
How
my
this
eyeball.
man is
Still
even
alive?
allowed? He's alive. I guess he funds his own network, or the people that are giving money to Jesus, they're putting up his television program. Anyway, he's punching, vomit, and.
Can I just do a quick rule of thumb?
Please.
I believe when somebody says, I don't push likes on Facebooks, that is your permission to tune out of whatever they're going to say about it.
Right, is that
what Facebook was?
Yeah.
But is the more offensive part like his just language around punching the like button?
Punch
That's
the
really
vomit
what.
button.
Yeah.
You know, look, I respect his beliefs, and he has every right to believe what he wants to believe. That's his right, and I think I probably never would have seen that clip unless you sent it to us to look at it. I am not. I'm sorry. So I did not get that clip in my weekly email.
Right.
But you know, take it for what it's worth. I think people are going to look at that clip and people make their own decisions and be like, okay, he's like crazy old man.
Right.
That just can't see the world like that people are different. And then whatever, you know, and vomit, okay, whatever.
So
I
then
mean, I just
actually,
giggle.
am I part of the problem here because we're talking about this? And it seems to me that more people talk about Pat Robertson than actually, I don't know anyone that
Gives him more
watches the
power.
show, but every time he says something stupid, it's on every website.
Well, I think it's actually good to talk about because I think it's a gauge of where the super, super crazy hardcore conservatives are, even if they're 140.
Yeah.
Because we've been seeing, I think, what I've noticed is a lot of really, really conservative people breaking down a little bit and accepting that the world is changing and people are evolving and maybe what they thought was true is not. And so this is a good temperature gauge of, okay, here's another one. Is he breaking down to see that, you know, people are people? No.
Right.
Well, Uncle Pat will just go, sit in the corner.
You know, this is Pat Robertson, who of course always blames gay people for hurricanes and all
yeah,
that stuff.
natural
He just a
disaster.
few weeks ago, he said that, you know, someone called in and said that their wife had Alzheimer's, and he said, well, you're allowed to cheat on her now. I mean, he's pretty intellectually inconsistent with all that stuff. So, which makes the point, I think, why does God have such bad messengers? You know what I mean? God, every time I think of someone screaming about God, it's either Pat Robertson or Rick Santorum or some idiot on the subway in New York City screaming about Jesus. Why doesn't he have better messengers?
I know you're not supposed to answer a question with a question, but
Go ahead.
do you really believe that these people are the messengers of God?
Look
When they're
at you.
self-appointed, I'm not sure they count.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want a card carrying.
Yeah, I mean,
But really, why doesn't, if religion is a legitimate thing and all that, if we're going to go that route for the purposes of the conversation, I mean, why doesn't God or whoever have better representatives that are preaching more of the peace type things and accept your neighbor and all that
I've
stuff?
said this my whole life. I think religion is a personal thing, and I'd like to keep it personal. It's hard for me to get behind somebody like him who says sort of crazy things that I think a lot of people, probably even conservatives, can say, okay, that's a little crazy. That's a little much.
The
like,
vomit button.
my wife has Alzheimer's, so you're allowed. You have a pass. You can go cheat on her. I'm like, when is that ever okay? On even people that are atheists.
Right,
I'm like,
and
is
what
that
in
really
the Bible?
okay?
What in the Bible gave him that?
And I have a hard time when they try to say things that the Bible didn't actually quite say, but they're interpreting. I'm like, okay, wait. So you're a man that's interpreting something that I'm just supposed to blindly follow. When maybe if I read it, I would interpret it another way.
Right. Well, and then a great example that I'm not a New Testament scholar by any stretch of the imagination or Old Testament, but when they say that
Really? Because we brought you on as
that they mention not to eat shrimp, 1,000 more times than a man not to lay with a man. So
Right.
maybe lay off the crustaceans too while you're preaching to everybody.
Right. And doesn't it say really that a man shall not lay with a man as he would a woman? But most gay men don't lay with women like that, so it's really not a problem.
Work.
You know what? You found a loophole.
Seriously.
I like you.
It's all about loopholes with
very
this
smart.
crazy.
How you interpret it.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving from one crazy TV idea to another, Directv is launching DogTV. Yeah, that's a television channel for your dog. So that, people leave the radio on when they go out or they leave the TV on for their dog. But now it is 24-hour programming for your dog, and we've got a little sneak peek of it. Okay, so that clip obviously is mainly for Buddhist dogs.
Obviously.
Yeah, I like how it was all dogs and then suddenly a stingray just got in there. I don't know how that happened. So yeah, this is...
Didn't you know dogs like to watch stingrays?
Dogs
I mean, God, didn't you know that?
Dogs love stingrays. So yes, this is an actual television channel that will be for dogs. I don't know how they're going to get people to advertise on it, but that's a whole other situation.
And you only get a month free, then you have to pay for it. And I'm
$4.99
like,
a month.
wait a minute.
Is this completely crazy? I know we have this thing as humans, but I think it's particular with Americans that we love to put human emotions on our dogs, and we think that they're thinking the same things we're thinking about. But they're animals, aren't they? Do they need TV shows?
I wouldn't put this on for my fictitious dog, but I would watch it 24 hours a day. I mean, it was very much, like you said, it was like the Tao of dog. And it was kind of like the whole vibe. But I think it's so stupid. But it's for people who put their, and no offense, I don't know if this includes either of you, but people who put their dogs in like buggies and people who say like it's Sunday, put your dress on.
Yeah.
My dog
What about
likes
these
a big
people?
white German Shepherd.
What about these people that walk their cats? Have you ever seen them? I got a guy that lives near me now that I've been seeing walking my walking a cat. Oh, you walk your cat, or you?
Do you do it?
You walk.
I don't actually walk him, but one of them, he's an indoor cat, but he can scale a 6.5 foot wall, and
Yeah.
I don't want him to get out of the yard, so I have him in a harness if he wants to go outside. Our other cat just goes outside,
that's
eats some
different.
grass.
That's
right.
like a Rube Goldberg
But I would
device.
never take him out front like walking
Like
down
take him-
Melrose.
Because it's impossible. I've tried it. It
Yeah,
doesn't
you
work.
can't walk
It
a
is
cat.
pretty
No.
impossible.
But really, is this just like some network executive came up with this idea and DirecTV said, let's do the dog
And
channel?
it's funny because I know said executive at DirecTV, and I need to put a phone call into him. I'm not going to name any names. I think they're trying to go on. And look, animals and pets are $1 billion industry,
Yeah.
even just in America alone. So we all like to put our dogs in carriers, get their nails painted, buy them crazy things that they probably don't need.
Dip dye them.
Right, yeah, exactly. Little barrettes and stuff. But don't we understand that dogs, A, are pretty much colorblind, B, they're all sensory based. Sure, they can sort of see the TV. I play little videos of like dogs barking to see if my dog, she gets up, she looks at the screen, and then like after a few seconds, she goes and lays back down.
Right.
So it's like they can't smell them, they can't touch them, they can't feel them. So I'm like, what's the point? I'm gonna pay $4.99, $5, $6 or whatever a month for this. I don't think it's gonna go, and I really, how do we know the dog? Just put on the television. The dogs
Right.
can watch whatever's on TV.
Isn't this a little bit like, you guys remember Baby Mozart? That was really hot for like a couple of years, and they said, well, if you play Mozart for the babies, it's going to make their brains develop. And you have something brewing in that belly, I believe.
I have a
And
bun in the oven, and we play some classical music sometimes, and we go to bed. But I haven't done any of the Baby Mozart.
and
stuff.
you can't feel the baby going, ooh, I like that Bach and Beethoven.
They say that if you play it before and then you play it when they're born, they sort of stop. And I'm like,
He's
really?
gonna come out with a harpsichord.
Yeah, right, exactly.
fantastic.
He's gonna throw some papers at me and be like, look what I composed in the womb, Mom.
Right, he'll be a tortured artist.
Right.
That's what he'll be if he ends up
Gosh.
like Mozart.
But I wonder if, because like you said, it is a huge industry. People treat their pets like they're their children, and I know.
I do.
And we all, everybody does, and babysitters when I was growing up was Disney Channel,
Yeah.
Nickelodeon, HBO, and they're like, well, hey, if it worked for me and I turned out okay,
My God, I'm
it'll
older
be
than
great
you.
for my dog.
Mine was like, you had to wait for your damn cartoons for 3 hours on Saturday morning. That's what you had. That's before cable came out.
And what
we had
time were you
Fraggle
getting up?
Rock.
They were on at like 7 in the morning.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. They were only on for a few hours. You only got cartoons
Oh,
at like,
whoa.
like on
Premium
Saturday
channel.
mornings. No, like
Right. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
all right.
So would you $5 a month? Would you get in on this?
I mean, my dog, I have a television and I have a dog. I have never seen my dog pay any attention to the television, and dogs bark on TV sometimes, and she's not an idiot. She knows it's a TV. So it's really for idiot dogs.
That's what I'm saying. They can't smell anything. They can't touch them. It's not three-dimensional. It's like, what's the point?
Right,
Dogs
and
are
you're right.
smarter than that.
And as you said, they are colorblind. They don't have rods and cones, so that changes their visual perception. Remember that episode of The Simpsons where they do it out of Santa's little helper's eyes, so you can see what he's seeing, and it's all this mumbled and the audio.
Right,
Doesn't matter. And it worries me because people already are, a lot of people are lazy with their dogs and they think, I'll just put the TV on, I'll come back on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Right, exactly.
The dog needs to go outside.
I know plenty of people who put on TV or the radio when they leave the house anyways for their pets.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I mean,
The dog doesn't.
Why,
Like,
why
the
do you
dog
need to
wants to
pay for
listen to
another
Rush
channel?
Limbaugh,
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, from doggy porn to regular porn, we're jumping back. We're going to talk. Well, you know what? Watch the clip and then we'll go.
Ladies, there is a crisis looming in the church. It has been called the new Bubonic Plague, as addictive as crack cocaine. Satan is silently attacking the minds of Christian men with a weapon which threatens husbands, dads, fiancés, and even church leaders. That weapon is pornography. 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 Porn. Pornography. Pornography is easily available, affordable. Much of it is free. Anonymous. Nobody has to know. There is almost a 100% chance that your son will be exposed to some type of pornography. Their cell phone can be a tool used by Satan to gain a stronghold into your child's mind. I believe as many as 80% of men in the church are struggling with some level of viewing pornography. 40% of those responding struggle with pornography. 30% of pastors had viewed pornography. As a pastor, I have seen firsthand pornography's devastating effects on a man, his marriage, his home, his job, and his leadership within the church. The concept I want you to take out of this video is what happens to you when you get in the porn zone. Once the climax is over, through masturbation or through acting out sexually in other ways, a man returns to his senses, if you will. Then he will think, what was I thinking? Why did I throw away everything that is dear to me for this? If there is any pornography in your home, destroy it immediately. You need to destroy all your porn stashes. You may even need to destroy your present computer. That leaves no place for porn. Pornography.
Wait, what were we talking about here? I don't think I got the point of that.
I think it was a
whole
commercial
clip.
for pornography.
I think so.
I'm
Wow.
literally speechless. I've watched that 10 times and it gets crazier each time. First off, I'm pretty sure it was an advertisement for porn. It's free. It's anonymous. Okay.
Find it on your cell phone and your computer.
Yeah. All right. I mean, he threw out some crazy. 80% of men are struggling with porn. 30% of pastors are watching porn.
Define struggling. I think it's just 80% of dudes watch porn.
Watch porn. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways we can go with this.
Yeah.
I'm even going to take the high road and not even comment on
That he
that
looks like
man's
a lesbian woman?
Precisely.
I think he's gay.
Ellen's cousin,
Right,
perhaps,
right,
or
maybe,
maybe he's
or
gay.
one
Let's
of
all
these,
right, but
sure.
let's
Whatever.
take the high road and
Okay.
leave that aside. What do people fear about porn? What is it about watching porn that people think it's going to destroy the world?
To me, I think it's religious, though. It's only the religious people that have a problem with
Yeah.
it. But I think when you look at the Catholic Church, for example, they have a huge problem with priests molesting young boys.
Yeah.
I think because the problem is they haven't really gotten with the 21st century, and you realize, oh, maybe a man and a woman should be allowed to be married.
Right.
So maybe they wouldn't just be segregated their whole lives and sexually suppressed,
Right.
and think that the only warm thing I'm going to get is an altar boy.
Right.
You
And
know,
at the
I
same
mean,
time, they tell you being gay is bad. So if you don't have to get married, it's a pretty great place to go if you don't want to be with a woman. And right. So
right.
It's
So you're hiding
self-fulfilling.
it, and it, you know,
Yeah.
and it, look. Really, I mean, where is this guy living? Because porn is not just porn where you find it on RedTube for free on the internet. We're talking about you can watch a 12-year-old girl walking down the street that's barely clothed, and that's pretty much what he's talking about.
Right.
So
By the
what
way,
do you?
9 out of 10 people watching just went to RedTube. People have actually stopped.
whoops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was
Thanks. You're
doing
not
my-
supposed to
I-
name the free porn
I'm
sites.
sorry.
while we're-
RedTube, you say?
Yeah.
.com.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I was researching.
Yeah.
What are you
yeah.
talking
Look,
about?
Now they've all left, and now we're.
This just seems like a bad business model. When you tell somebody over and over and over again not to do something, it's like, don't
the
think,
kids, like, over his right shoulder.
Don't think of a purple elephant.
Yeah.
What did you just think of? You know, there's better ways to do this. You know, and that's the thing. I'm not, you know, Christian. I'm not really religious, whatever. But when you have a frank conversation with somebody about sexuality or about pornography, it doesn't sound like that.
Right.
It doesn't sound like, well, you're possessed by Satan, and it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like, okay.
Right.
Just know that these are the pitfalls of being porn ruined. And this is what it can do to your marriage. And this is what it can do to your relationships.
Exactly
and this
right.
is what it can do to young minds who are like sponges who don't understand what intimacy is.
Okay, so I think you're hitting it beyond on the head. We never have that discussion. That we always make it sound like it's crazy religious people saying no porn or a bunch of sex maniacs saying porn, porn, porn.
Right.
But the truth is somewhere in the middle, which is yes. You can watch. We've all probably watched too much porn. If I could have some of that time back, I probably would have wrote more jokes. I could have been hosting the Tonight Show right now. You know what I mean? Like we all could. So, but why are we afraid of having like an honest conversation?
Well, because
about
I think they want you to think that it's something dirty. So, oh my God, it's dirty, and I'm going to feel bad after I do it or watch it or whatever. I mean, I've looked at porn. I've looked at porn with my husband. I don't think it's made me a bad person. I'm not addicted to it. It's not like I look it up every night. It hasn't ruined our relationship. We've been together 10 years. We're having a child. I think it's like anything in life. You try to learn, like you say, you learn the pitfalls. I mean, that's part of being a human being and learning from your parents or learning, hopefully, from your pastor that maybe is not that crazy about it, but you go, look, this can be bad, this can be bad. I mean, it's like smoking. It's bad for your health. It can do this to you. It can give you lung cancer. It can make you die prematurely. It can make you look 10 years older than you are. And, you know, some people are probably still going to go smoke a cigarette, and then they're going to go, you know what, it's probably not for me, or I realize how to do it in moderation, or maybe I'm not going to do it at all. But, like, where is it that people, you know, the last time I looked, porn didn't kill anybody. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It didn't actually physically murder anybody.
Right.
People aren't dying from it. So I'm like, you know.
Well, that's the funny thing. He's saying what a detriment it is, and as a Christian, this should be your
Sure,
number one
then
fight.
let me take that and figure it out for myself.
And it's lazy pastoring, because when you put just the Satan stamp of approval on it without explaining
Well,
yourself,
then everybody's going to want to go look at it.
exactly. Yeah. Whatever.
But is that part of the trick that they're doing, actually? By saying it's so bad, they know that then you'll be redeemed by the church. So it's like, this is their little trick. We're going to tell you about something. We're going to tell you how much. This is how much everybody loves it. It's awful. Come to us. We'll
He's
save
like,
you.
get out of the porn zone.
Yeah, the porn zone.
Ew, now you really are making me feel dirty.
I want to go to the porn zone. The porn zone sounds pretty
Like, do
good.
you have to pay to get in? Is there like a cover charge
when
for
he
that?
said porn zone, all of us were like, porn zone. Yeah.
Is there a calendar or a timestamp somewhere? Because I'm going to say something I have never said and never thought I would say in a million years. We should take a page from the teachings of George W. Bush.
Wow, twice in one show.
And
You're back
say,
to him,
with the splinter in the eye, with the log in the guy's mouth, or whatever that was.
That was an earlier clip.
But I like that.
That's what we have to remember. Like it's all hypocrisy. When you're saying all or nothing, do this and you're good, don't do this and you're bad. I promise you, Ellen's cousin or whoever that guy was does not do that, because he's human, and that's what makes us human. We
falter and make mistakes.
It's a big gray area. So he just needs to simmer down.
Yeah. By the way, I should say that since I just fumbled my way into the segment because I was so shocked by it. That's a Florida pastor, by the way, and he's starting something called 1 Million Men, and he wants 1 million men. 1 million men to swear off the porn. So good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure they're going to say they are.
Gonna make
And
1
then
million liars.
Go
all right.
to the channel.
Last segment, here we go. It has been a summer of blockbuster flops, from White House down and Olympus Has Fallen. World War Z didn't do as well as people thought. Oblivion a little bit before that. Now The Lone Ranger is tanking. They're saying it's going to lose like $150 million. All the big boys, and that's what summers are all about, the big popcorn flicks. They're all crumbling and losing money for the studios. I think there might be something culturally good going on here that we're starting for the first time. Could it be possible that Americans are getting sick of the giant machine that pumps out Transformers, Michael Bay crap endlessly?
I hope so. I think it's the same for women. I don't see big Transformer movies with the GoBots and whatever, and I don't see rom-coms.
Because a lot of nerds are not going to.
Whatever. I prefer GoBots.
Wow.
But I think they're both lazy writing. Neither side of the spectrum appeals to me, and I hope you're right. And these guys, the Will Smiths and the Tom Cruises and all this stuff, they're not gods. They're not invincible. They're not. They might be in the movie.
Don't tell that to the
They're
Scientology
aging.
people.
Tom Cruise is 50 plus, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt's going to be turning 50. I mean, Will Smith's 44, but still, I mean,
young.
he's always sort of been pegged as like the young kid.
Right.
He can still act like the 20-something and get away with it in a movie.
Yeah, well, actually, After Earth was the one that I forgot to mention, and that was one of the biggest bombs. And I think part of it is directly because of how people are now feeling about his son.
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of it? That it's like, most kids get like, a toy or a video game for their birthday. His son got a movie. You know what I mean? Like, here, take this movie.
Yeah.
Do you think part of this is like people are starting to turn against the big stars a little bit? I think some of that's there.
I mean, I'm a moviegoer, so I go see all the big movies. I still go see independent movies and stuff too. But, I think, like with Johnny Depp, there's been a lot of stories. Lone Ranger has tanked. It hasn't affected Disney stock, which I thought was very interesting, because they said a few months ago that the investors actually thought it's probably going to be a tank because people were not reviewing it well. And I'm thinking, wow, they're okay with a $160 million loss. They've already accepted that into their
Right, and it
stock
doesn't
roll,
matter on the bottom line, really, because there's so much money.
But when people are talking about Johnny Depp as an actor, and probably these other guys, it's like, they're just kind of mailing it in, which has become like, okay, what happened to the Johnny Depp of old that was like the quirky guy, but that had some substance behind his really cool characters? Now he's just flopping his arms and doing the same sort of Pirates of the Caribbean shtick in The Lone Ranger or whatever.
Right, it looks like it's just a different costume. Like they had him in it and they were like, oh.
Which, I think people are getting sick of. And then B, the writing. all we're doing now is seeing remakes of past movies or past TV shows. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, the last great movie that I really, really, really liked was, that was original, was Inception. And I was like, it was a fantastic movie that you had to watch a couple times, you had to think about it all the way to the very end. And even then you're having discussions, and it was like, oh my God, it was an original movie idea with great acting, a great storyline. It made you think. You had to stay focused through the entire movie instead of these, like, you know, I don't know, how many Supermans are we doing and how many Transformers are we doing? I'm like, people are getting sick of that, I think. People are like, oh my God, another Smurf movie.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Move on.
Are we ready to think?
There's an app called Run Pee. I don't know if you're familiar, but it basically tell you where in the movie you can go pee and not miss anything.
Where the breaks are.
Yeah.
That's a great.
And in movies like this, is it just pee?
Yeah.
I mean, because it doesn't look like we're really going to miss anything. And to be honest, that's, like I said, it's not really my kind of movie. I did see World War Z. I thought it was great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought it was great. It was kind of I Am Legend-y, but it's cool, whatever. Yeah. But I got to say, as far as apocalyptic movies are concerned, this is the end. The best movie I've ever seen.
Hilarious.
I didn't see it, but a lot of people go.
It's about hilarious because the writing's great, the banter is funny, the story. I didn't even realize it was like a stupid zombie movie until halfway through it.
And that proves the point, though, because that was a smart, well-written movie, and it did well. It's not on this list of massive budget.
Well, because there's no really big movie action stars like these guys, you know, in it. But the ensemble's great, the writing's funny, everything about it is just kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it was original, it was funny.
And maybe, with stuff like Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, maybe we are getting smarter.
That was your perfect point. Yes,
that
I think.
It's like you pay your cable channel, your Dish Network, or
whatever
your
you do,
bill.
that's private up to you. But I think you're on it with that, about this idea that there's so much good television right now. You know what I mean? And if you want to get your zombies, you can watch Walking Dead, and it's great. And Breaking Bad,
and Cinemax. I'm telling you, Strike Back. Check it out. You will love it. Cinemax and HBO. Yeah.
Or what's the other? What's the other one on Mad Men, Game of Thrones? I mean, there's a lot. Or what's the one on Netflix with Kevin Spacey? House of Cards.
House of Cards.
The point is that there's.
I'm not smart enough for that, though.
You weren't smart enough?
I haven't actually started watching that one yet.
I don't like when he breaks the fourth wall. I'm like, if he didn't, I wouldn't know what a whip was. So I have to,
You're talking about the house whip,
exactly.
not that whip.
Yeah. Oh, darn.
Yeah. So
you can find that on your porn channel, too, if you like.
I'm finding this rather inspiring. We all seem to be agreeing that maybe Americans are ready for some smarter.
Maybe we're getting smarter. Is exactly
Could it possibly be?
And you know what? The one thing over anything in any situation, if you talk with your checkbook or you talk with your wallet, people will have to listen. Yep. And when they said, maybe for Independence Day we're not going to hire Will Smith because you know what, he's diminishing in how fans like him, and really, can we afford that paycheck? Finally, a movie production company that's going, maybe it's not worth it. Yeah. Smart, finally.
In case
that
they're
saying no.
Yeah, so Independence Day 2 is not going to have Will Smith in it in case.
Which is great. I mean, why not have somebody new?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's another, sequel to another movie, which is driving me crazy. Can't we just write it? I mean, where are the writers in Hollywood? Really? Write something original.
Where are these people?
I mean, you know what I mean? But then they're talking about like most.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. I mean, with the upstart of great cable television shows, but all of the regular, free TV, dramas have really, and comedies have, they've all disappeared over the years. There's no more Friends. There's no more shows like that. And it's like writers are like, oh, we have nothing else to work on. Everything's reality. And I'm like, well, if you're writing really good quality stuff,
it a self-fulfilling prophecy. We can still turn the ship around.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you know what? I don't hold it against the big stars. I mean, get your paycheck, man.
I'm not putting it past any of them. Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like, well, hubris. Like you're not worth that anymore.
And in this article, actually, that you sent us, Tom Cruise has foregone like a movie that he agreed to so he could go back and make another Mission Impossible movie because he knows that's the cash cow.
That's the moneymaker, right? I actually thought Oblivion was pretty decent, but
see, I wanted to go see it, and then by the time we blinked and my husband came back from a trip, it was not in the movie theater anymore.
Well, final point on this: do you think that's actually part of the problem, that everyone gets so hyped for these big movies that if you don't see it in the first 2 days, it's like,
gone.
You know,
Well,
no, it's still
why
there.
they-
It's still there, but it's like, oh, I already missed the exciting
or you
part.
hear about it. Like
Yeah.
people are like, oh, it sucks. And then people go, no, you know, I don't want to spend my $20 at the movie theater then. I'll go
Exactly.
see something else that I've heard is good.
And if you're a real movie buff, you give it to them that first weekend because that's all that anybody gives a shit about.
Right.
So.
Exactly. And then, you know, you
If
get it
you
on.
really want to help the studio the way they want to be.
exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
but then soon enough you're going to get it on Netflix or you're going to get it on DVD or you're going to watch it on HBO anyway. So a lot of times people, I've asked my friends, Mike, hey, have you gone to see blah 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 in the movie theater? Nah, I'll just wait for it to come out. I'll watch it at home.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, unless it's such a great movie that you have to see it on the big screen with all the bells and whistles. He's like, nah, I'll just wait for it to come out on DVD.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? You
Well,
never used to be that way.
You know what? In these here parts, we appreciate you watching it on YouTube. So there's a subscribe button right down there. I want to thank my guests, Leeann Tweeden and Gina Grad. They're on the Twitter, and you can see their little Twitter handles right there as well. And now you can go back to your RedTube, as Leeann recommended.
I was just doing research.
Or you can go into your internet browser thing and block all that stuff, as the man from the Million Man
Sign up
porn
thing.
thing doesn't
Yeah.
want you to do. Okay, we'll do this again next week. Thanks, guys.